Tom Cruise had seen it all, the glitz, the glam, the endless flashing cameras. But even Hollywood's biggest star needed a break. So, on a whim, he booked a summer trip to London. He expected a quiet getaway. Maybe some tea, a little sightseeing, a few polite British conversations. What he got instead was a whirlwind of chaos wrapped in the form of Elizabeth Superhalk, a gymnastic marvel, with a laugh that could shake the whole city. From the moment they met at a rooftop cafe in Soho, Tom knew he was in trouble. Elizabeth was sharp, unpredictable, and had the kind of humor that left him both bewildered and intrigued. She flipped literally out of her seat, just to prove a point about balance, nearly knocking over a very proper-looking gentleman's cup of Earl Grey. "Loosen up, Hollywood," she grinned, watching Tom's wide-eyed reaction. "This ain't the Oscars." It wasn't just Elizabeth's wild energy that threw him off, it was how easy she made everything feel. So when she invited him on a proper drinking expedition, he found himself saying yes before he could overthink it. As the night stretched on, Tom realized something he never expected. He liked this life. The pub's dim lights, the laughter echoing off the walls, Elizabeth's ridiculous stories about accidentally cartwheeling into a royal event. It all felt real, more real than anything he'd experienced in years. But of course, nothing in Tom Cruise's life was ever that simple. Enter Dr. Christiana Zeus, a woman with an unsettling smirk and a habit of showing up at the worst possible moments. She had her own plans for Elizabeth, and she wasn't afraid to play dirty. Armed with a collection of peculiar potions and an unnerving obsession with train spotting, Christiana wasn't about to let Tom steal the spotlight or Elizabeth. As Tom navigated the bizarre battlefield of London's nightlife, one thing became clear: winning over Elizabeth wasn't just about charm. It was about strategy, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit of luck. Tom had barely recovered from the whirlwind of the night before when his phone buzzed. A cryptic text from Elizabeth. "Meet me at the Thames, midnight. Bring an open mind." His pulse quickened. It wasn't just the allure of adventure, there was something off about the message. The light-hearted, mischievous Elizabeth wouldn't send something so mysterious. When he arrived at the riverbank, the sight before him stole his breath. Elizabeth stood under the glow of an old street lamp, her fiery energy dimmed, her eyes scanning the darkness. She looked nervous, and then, from the shadows, Christiana Zeus emerged. "Tom, you shouldn't be here," Elizabeth murmured, but before he could respond, Christiana let out a low chuckle. "Oh, but he should," she purred. "After all, love triangles are much more entertaining with a witness." Tom stiffened at what's going on. Christiana stepped forward, twirling a small vial between her fingers. "You see, dear Tom, you're not the only one enchanted by Elizabeth. But unlike you, I have the means to keep her permanently." Elizabeth's jaw clenched. "I told you, Christiana, I don't need your potions or your twisted games." But it was too late. Christiana uncorked the vial and, with a flick of her wrist, sent a fine mist spiraling into the air. Tom barely had time to react before the scent wrapped around him, intoxicating, dizzying, laced with something he couldn't quite place. The world tilted. Elizabeth's voice sounded distant, and then, suddenly, he was somewhere else. A grand ballroom, crystal chandeliers, Elizabeth in a flowing red dress, her eyes locked onto his with an urgency he didn't understand. Music swelled, but no one else was moving. Just them. "Tom," she whispered, "you have to wake up." He blinked. Wake up? But he was awake, wasn't he? Then, from the corner of his eye, he saw her. Christiana watching, smiling. And just like that, everything went black. Tom gasped, his lungs burning as if he had been drowning. His vision swam in and out of focus. He wasn't in the ballroom anymore. He was in a hospital bed. White walls. The slow beep of a heart monitor. a soft floral scent lingering in the air. His hands clutched at the stiff sheets beneath him as he tried to make sense of it. What the hell just happened? Good. You're awake, a voice called out. Not Elizabeth. Not Christiana. A man in a crisp navy suit sat at the edge of the room, tapping his fingers against a file labeled Project Hollywood. Tom tried to speak, but his throat was dry. Who are you? The man chuckled, closing the file. That's not the right question, Mr. Cruz. He leaned forward, eyes glinting. The right question is which part was real. Tom's heart pounded. The memories of Elizabeth, Christiana, the ballroom, the mist, it all felt real. But now was it? As if reading his mind, the man smirked. Let me put it this way, when was the last time you truly knew what was real? Tom's breath hitched. He reached for his phone, but it wasn't there. He reached for the call button, but the machine was unplugged. His stomach twisted. The man stood up. You're part of something bigger than you realize, Mr. Cruz. And you have two choices. Tom clenched his fists. What choices? The man's smirk widened. Wake up or go deeper. The lights flickered. A cold breeze swept through the sterile hospital air. Then, just like before, everything went black. Tom awoke with a jolt, not in the hospital bed, but on a rooftop in London, Elizabeth leaning over him, shaking his shoulders. Tom, wake up. You scared the hell out of me. His head spun as he looked around. The city lights twinkled below them. A warm breeze, carrying the distant sound of laughter from the streets below. Elizabeth, he croaked. What's going on? She exhaled in relief, then smacked his arm playfully. You passed out after Christiana's stupid trick. But don't worry, I stole the rest of her potions and threw them into the Thames. Tom blinked. So none of that was real. Elizabeth gave him a soft smile. Maybe parts of it were. Maybe none of it was. But you know what's real? Before he could answer, she grabbed his hand and pulled him up. This. Right now. Us. She spun him around and led him into a hidden jazz bar where a band played an upbeat tune. Time to live, Hollywood. No more overthinking. Tom laughed, feeling lighter than he had in years. Fine, but only if you promise not to cartwheel into royalty again. Elizabeth smirked. No promises. As they danced under the dim lights, the world felt more real than ever. But somewhere, in the shadows, a pair of watchful eyes lingered. In the midst of laughter and music, the shadows moved. The man in the navy suit appeared at the bar, watching intently. Then, without warning, Christiana Zeus walked in, a knowing smirk on her lips. Tom, she purred. It's time for the truth. Elizabeth froze. Tom's pulse quickened. Everything you think, Christiana continued, is a lie. And with that, the final mask fell. A deeper illusion. Tom's breath hitched as the world around him distorted. The grand ballroom, Elizabeth's red dress, the hypnotic music, it all shimmered like a heat mirage. Then, just as quickly as it appeared, it shattered. He landed hard. Cold pavement. London. Nighttime. A sharp pain shot through his head. His vision swam as he struggled to his feet, his mind still tangled in the illusion Christiana had cast. The mist, the potion, whatever it was, it had done something to him. Elizabeth stood nearby, eyes burning with anger. I told you not to play her game. Christiana Zeus, ever composed, tilted her head with amusement. Oh, darling, this isn't a game. This is reality, and poor Tom here is just now starting to see it. Tom clenched his fists. Enough of this cryptic crap. What the hell is going on? Christiana sighed, stepping closer. Fine. You want the truth. She pulled a small silver device from her pocket and pressed a button. A piercing tone rang through the alley. The air around them seemed to ripple, like reality itself was shifting. Tom's stomach lurched as images flashed through his mind, memories that weren't his, voices speaking in languages he didn't know, places he had never been. And then, silence. When Tom looked up, Elizabeth was staring at him, not with concern, but with fear. "Tom," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You're not who you think you are." His blood turned to ice. "What?" Christiana smiled. "Now that's an interesting question, isn't it?" The London skyline stretched behind them, cold and endless. But in that moment, Tom felt like the ground beneath his feet was slipping away, and for the first time in his life, he wasn't sure if he wanted to know the answer. The truth beneath the illusion. Tom's pulse pounded in his ears. He could still hear Elizabeth's words ringing in his head, "You're not who you think you are." "What the hell does that mean?" he demanded, his voice hoarse. Elizabeth looked away, guilt flashing across her face. Christiana, however, was enjoying every second of his confusion. "Go on, dear," she teased. "Tell him." Elizabeth exhaled sharply, then turned to Tom. "You feel real, right? You remember growing up, your career, your life in Hollywood?" Tom frowned. "Of course, I do." "What kind of question is that?" Elizabeth hesitated. "Then tell me, what's the first memory you have? Not something from a movie, not something from a red carpet event, your earliest, real memory." Tom opened his mouth, then froze. Flashes of moments raced through his mind, but they were disjointed, blurry. He remembered being Tom Cruise, sure. The movies, the interviews, the stunt training. But before that, before Hollywood, his chest tightened. "I don't know," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Christiana clapped her hands together, delighted. "Oh, Tom, you really are a masterpiece." He spun to face her. "Enough games. Tell me what's going on." She smirked and took a slow step forward. "You are not Tom Cruise. At least, not the original one." Silence. Tom's breath caught. "What?" Elizabeth placed a hand on his arm. "You're a creation, Tom. A perfect replica. You were never in Hollywood. You were never even born. You were made." Tom jerked back, shaking his head. No, that's insane." Christiana grinned. "Is it?" She pulled a sleek tablet from her pocket and tapped the screen. A holographic image flickered to life, in the air a sleek lab, glass chambers, scientists moving between glowing monitors. And in one of those chambers, Tom's stomach dropped. It was him, floating in some kind of pod, unconscious, wires connected to his body. His mind reeled. "No, this is a trick." Elizabeth's expression was pained. "It's not." Tom stumbled back, his hands gripping his head. Everything he knew, everything he was, it was all fake. A manufactured identity? Christiana leaned in, whispering, "And here's the real twist. Darling, there isn't just one of you." Tom's breath hitched. "Hollywood needed a forever star," she continued. "Someone who never aged, never slowed down, never disappeared. So they built you. And when one version wore out," she snapped her fingers, "they replaced him with a fresh one." Tom's knees nearly buckled. His whole life, his fame, his memories, his identity was all just an illusion. Elizabeth grabbed his hands. "Tom, listen to me. You're still you, no matter where you came from." His mind screamed in protest. But deep down, something in his gut told him this was the truth. Christiana sighed, almost bored. "Well, this has been fun, but our little runaway experiment needs to come home." She reached into her coat, pulling out a sleek black device. Elizabeth's grip tightened on Tom's hand. "Run." But it was too late. Christiana pressed the button, and everything went dark. The final truth. Darkness. Tom wasn't sure if he was unconscious or if the world had simply stopped existing around him. His mind swam in fragmented memories, Hollywood premieres, red carpets, impossible stunts, but now he questioned if any of it had ever really happened. Then, with a gasp, he woke up. He was strapped to a chair. Bright, white lights flooded his vision. The room was sterile, clinical cold steel, and glowing monitors surrounded him. Machines hummed softly. Wires ran along the floor like veins in a mechanical beast. And then he saw them, rows upon rows of pods. Each one held a man who looked exactly like him. His stomach lurched. Christiana wasn't lying. A voice crackled through an overhead speaker. "Welcome home. Subject, TC-47. Tom clenched his fists. "I'm not your damn subject." Christiana Zeus strolled into view, her signature smirk firmly in place. "Oh, but you are. And you always have been." She gestured toward the pods. "See, Tom, you're one of many. Every time a Tom Cruise starts to break down aging, injuries, or, heaven forbid, thinking too much, we retire him and wake up a fresh one." Tom's mind raced. "That's insane. The real Tom Cruise died decades ago." Christiana tilted her head. "You think a man that fearless, that unstoppable, that legendary could just be real? No, darling. Hollywood made sure he would never fade. And you," she leaned in, "you're just the latest version." Tom's breath came fast and shallow. His entire life, his identity, was nothing but a well-crafted illusion. A crash interrupted his spiraling thoughts. The doors burst open, and there she was, Elizabeth. She was bruised, her clothes torn, but her eyes burned with determination. In her hands, a metal pipe. "Get away from him," she growled. Christiana barely flinched. "Ah, Miss Superhalk, you're persistent. I'll give you that." Elizabeth didn't wait for another word. She swung the pipe, smashing a control panel, sending sparks flying. Sirens blared. The facility trembled. Tom felt the restraints loosen. Elizabeth lunged forward, helping him up. "You came back for me?" he rasped. She smirked. "Of course. What's the point of saving the world if you're not in it?" Christiana scowled. "You can't save him. He doesn't belong out there. He belongs here." Elizabeth glanced at the rows of pods. Then maybe it's time none of them belonged here. With a fierce swing, she smashed another console. The pods hissed. Alarms screamed. One by one, the capsules flickered and died, their systems failing. Tom grabbed Elizabeth's hand. "We have to go now." They sprinted down the corridors as the facility fell apart around them. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Security guards stormed in. But Elizabeth was fast. A well-placed kick here. A dodge there they powered through. Then, the final exit. A steel door. Locked. Tom turned. Christiana stood behind them, panting, a gun in her hand. "You walk out that door, and you'll never know who you really are." Tom held Elizabeth's hand tighter. He met Christiana's eyes. And for the first time, he wasn't confused. He wasn't lost. He knew exactly who he was. "I'm who I choose to be." With a final punch, he smashed the emergency override. The door hissed open, and together they ran. The sun was rising over London. Tom and Elizabeth sat on the roof of a small cafe, watching as the city came to life. "So what now?" Tom asked. Elizabeth stretched, grinning. "We disappear. We start over." Tom exhaled. A fresh start. A real life. No scripts. No manufactured memories, just freedom. "Think they'll come after us?" he asked. Elizabeth smirked. "Probably." But she nudged him playfully. "You are Tom Cruise. We can handle it." Tom laughed. And, for the first time in his life, it was real. The end. Watch till the end for the shocking reveal. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for more thrilling AI-generated stories.